Is education important?
Students have a very clear choice. PBSA is one thing, and there's a lot of investment in PBSA happening. So purpose-built student accommodation, Scape, Urban Nest, Uni Lodge.
Should we spend $50,000 to $200,000 and send our kids abroad?
It was a position where people were starting to think again about studying overseas.
International students are an integral part of the community in Australia. Australia was the first country to have a branch campus.
Hey everyone, good morning. Today, it's a very auspicious day. The guests which we got, I guess it's been probably more than a year I've been chasing them, but I'm not complaining because I know how busy they are. I mean, the guests are really, powerful, in an all good way, right? So today we have Dr. Monica Kennedy, who's head of AUSTRADE, South Asia at Australian Trade and Investment Commission. And Vic, should I call you a friend or a mentor or a guiding star, especially when it comes to Australia ecosystem?
Right, we've been friends for a long time, so call me a friend.
You've been very, very, really been kind, and he heads Trade and Investment Commission AUSTRADE. How long you been together? Because I was observing few things. It seems you know each other for like more than a decade or two. Your chemistry is next level.
Yeah.
Would really be keen to understand, how long we've been together.
Yeah.
Well, it does feel like we've been together for a long, long time. We were discussing that. I'm incredibly blessed that I get to have a friend as a boss. And, I think officially we've been working together for about close to about 5 years now. I started my government journey at the same time that you started, Monica. And, the last 18 months has been incredible because we're both posted in the same region.
Yeah.
But it does feel like a long time.
It's a long time. And before we started working together in AUSTRADE, of course, I knew about Vic. Everyone knows of Vic in the industry. So I knew about Vic, knew him by reputation. But then I started with AUSTRADE onshore in Australia in the education role not long after Vic had come in to lead this big project, the Digital Education Hub project, and he was there working on building the brand for Study Australia for the last 18 months or so. Is that 18 months?
18 months.
Last 18 months. So we've been working really, really closely in this region. It's been a great time.
And in fact, I'm not sure whether you remember, but so Monica was in Canberra. I was in Sydney when we were both on show. Your first official trip to Sydney with AUSTRADE, I was meant to have lunch with you. And that was just post-COVID and things were, work from home and all
patchy.
that. And I missed lunch.
Oh, yeah. It'd be the only lunch he misses. He goes, never misses lunch.
I agree with you. I understand where you're pointing. I guess a couple of common thing with Vic and even with Lawrence, is I guess we're all foodie. Because I've seen we enjoy our lunches. So you missing lunch is a big thing. Not that you need introduction, but anything you want to talk about yourself, about AUSTRADE, because our audience is very raw. About you, about AUSTRADE, anything, everything. The floor is yours.
Yeah, look, absolutely. I think I'm in a very, very lucky position because, 25, 30 years ago, without giving away my age too much, 25, 30 years ago,
You are under 40. You're still contesting
let's
40
go
under
with
40.
That. Let's go
yeah.
with that.
Yeah.
25, 30 years ago, I was in the exact same position as some of your audience may be, where I was looking to study overseas. I'd finished my undergrad in Delhi with Delhi University, and I was looking to go overseas to study. So I think, I've always felt that, my international education journey for the last 20 years is really kind of, I guess, my experience as a student has shaped what I've done in the last 20 years. And, I can get up and say kind of quite proudly that, it's an Australian education that's got me to where I am today. And I guess that's, in a sense, what we're doing in the market over here, across the region. We focus on making sure that Australia is positioned as that top destination. In fact, one of the things that Monica and I have been very clear about, and, Monica started the charge with, all this wonderful work that we're doing, but we've been very clear. It's not that everyone's going to wake up and go, I'm only going to go overseas and study at Australia. We're well aware that there's other nations as well, legacy destinations.
Right.
We don't have the legacy of some of the other destinations, but I think, to make sure that we have positioned ourselves as that premier destination of choice, and I think we've done that. People now say it's the US, Australia, UK. It's like in the same.
You're in the top 4 and close to like only by numbers. You're definitely always in the top 3, top 2, close to 2, 3. So like amazing work you've been doing. But back to your story.
No, thank you. And the other thing we've been working on is study with Australia in your home country, and I think that's going to be a very interesting space to watch. Obviously, I think one of the things we can both stand up and say all the time is that Australia was the first country to have a branch campus or a university in India. We'll have that forever, but that's growing. We've got more and more announcements coming through, partnerships. Incredibly opportunistic for an Indian student or a South Asian student at the moment to be able to study a dual degree. Imagine we did not have that opportunity where you could actually get a quality Australian degree and a quality Indian degree at the same time, for example.
Right.
So working a lot on that. Skills, another area that we focus on. So I think we've got the whole gamut of education and skills that we cover at AUSTRADE. But for me personally, this has been an incredible opportunity for me to give back to my adopted country. I am very thankful that the decision I made, which is almost teetering between the US and Australia at that stage, I chose Australia. Whether it was a lifestyle, you mentioned earlier, the warm, welcoming destination, exactly that. And I think international students are an integral part of the community in Australia. It's a best experience, and I think enjoyed being in the sector the last 20 years as well.
Brilliant.
I think
Dr. Monica.
Yeah, you were talking about AUSTRADE, and people might not know who or what AUSTRADE is. So the Australian Trade and Investment Commission, we have quite a broad remit. So like in a nutshell, AUSTRADE's job here in South Asia is to support South Asia to buy from, invest in or study with Australia. So the last 3.5, 4 years have been an incredible period where we had an opportunity to really reposition Australia as a premium education destination, but more importantly, really as an education system. So Australia just doesn't punch above its weight as an education destination because it's a great place to live. It is an incredible system that's underpinned by great regulatory environment, great institutions, and we really are impressive in what we've been able to achieve with just, 43 universities. If you counted up every single thing you can count that might be a university. And in that cohort, we see extraordinary performance in the top 20 and the top 100, and all but just a couple of universities in Australia are within the top 500 in the world. And coming out of COVID, there was really this alignment of stars. It was a position where people were starting to think again about studying overseas. We were able to arrive, the work that Vic was doing on putting a brand around Study Australia, really supported the work that we did coming back into India and saying, hey, look at us. We really are a premium offer. Look at us seriously. We know you've got a habit of engaging with legacy countries, but take another look at Australia and let us present our credentials. And I think that's been working really well.
Absolutely.
As an education system too, so certainly as a destination, but I think our success in transnational education is also because there's a really strong recognition here in India that Australia's education system is world leading. It's been a great time with the alignment of the stars, right? Just everything coming together over the last 4 or 5, and then of course Vic and I coming together and actually getting to to be here at this time of incredible growth and change in India in particular. It's been, quite the ride.
This podcast seems to be wherein I will be doing more listening, which I love.
Oh, sorry.
I'm not a good listener. No, absolutely no. I'm not trying to.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't have a Austrian sarcasm. Like I'm very raw, right? I'm very on the face. I believe I'm so much to learn, so much to groom. I mean, and so happy and so fortunate to be. Getting opportunity to interact with you guys, right? But where I was coming from, that I can see your chemistries. I mean, it's impeccable. It feels like you are just in love with your work and working with each other.
Yeah.
Would love to have your journey. So with university, did you study maths? And no promotion to that university, but
no, absolutely. Victoria University.
Victoria.
Back in the day, it was VUT, Victoria University of Technology.
Right.
Now VU. So yeah.
Okay. I'll come to a couple of questions later, but
sure.
Would love to understand your journey. You were in Canberra, you mentioned. Like how did your journey flow?
Ooh, how long would you like me to go back? It's a very long.
See,
journey.
I have lots of time.
Yeah.
You guys are busy.
Well, I love that Vic was at VU because I the VU was very close to my heart. I was there as the campus director at the Sydney campus for a long time, working with ECA at that time. But my story is a strange one. I didn't start studying until I was an adult. And so, well, I did actually. I did 6 months at one of the group of 8 universities when I was 18. I spent more time in the bar than I did in the classroom. And
But where are you from? You're from Australia.
Canberra.
Canberra, right? That's your native, right?
Canberra.
Okay.
Brought up on the south coast, living in Canberra. Didn't have a successful first go at university, and then went back as an adult when I was 28. And at that time went to University of Canberra, did a very specific focused degree in organisational communication.
Which one?
Organisational communication, a
Very
Bachelor of
interesting. And
Arts.
this is back in, let's say,
this
not
is
into
back in
age, but
back in the early 90s.
Yeah, and you've been grazing really well, So, in fact, if anyone, I know today's generation about age, they want to grow early and soon and all that. I'm like, life is very long, and if I go back 20 years back, I'm 40, right? And how I introduce myself that I'm 40 with 20 years experience and 20 years youth energy, now beat me. But if I go back and if anyone will ask, I'm like, I will take more time. I will just not, get into everything.
Absolutely.
I will take my time. I'll ensure that which path I need to go, and I'll ensure that, okay, this is the right direction. So to all the audience, age is just a number, and I mean it, but, and it's long life, right? I mean, if you have gone back to a campus on 28 and you're very clear that you want to read organization communication, how did you come to this, is it a fancy word? Because I did economics honors, and that time economics was like, wow, if you do economics honors, probably you feel that you're intellectual,
But I think the thing about going back to study as an adult was that you pick something you love, because you've got a really full, like by that time I had a family, I had a really full life. I picked something that I was really interested in. And on the basis that I figured if I do something I love, I'm going to end up in a job that I love. So my first story where I didn't succeed, I made a joke about spending all my time in the bar. But actually what happened was I started studying in biochemistry. And one day I was in the chemistry lab and I was I was doing this chromophotography. I can't remember what it is, even some experiment. And I was standing in my white lab coat watching the colour move up the paper. And I had this ridiculous realisation, should have thought about this a lot earlier. Wait a second, if I'm doing this in my study, probably I'm going to have a job in which I'm expected to stand in a lab in a white coat and watch these data. And that is not what I want to do. And so from that point, I found it really hard to connect with that qualification and ended up pulling out after just a semester. But when I went back as a grown-up, by then I was like, I recognized things about myself, what I love to do, how I love to work, that I was really engaged with people. I loved organization and organization theory in particular, and could see that I could be successful in that kind of an area. But then I studied for a really long time. So I studied non-stop for 14 years before I finished my postgraduate study after my PhD, and I didn't go to work into a full-time ongoing job until I was 43.
Oh.
So my first full-time job.
That's how you got doctor.
Yeah, that's why I just studied for a really long time. Just studied for a long time while I was bringing up the family. So your point about age doesn't matter is a really good point, because just because you're not working during a long period in your life, or you're not in a career track, doesn't mean that you're not learning, continuing to develop yourself and your expertise, so that when you do hit a career that you love, you're ready just to have a trajectory that's quite steep.
So I always ask this, I've been getting opportunity to talk to, educators, entrepreneurs, even investors now, right? And one theme which I always, try to pick, is education important? Especially in today's world, when you have YouTube, you have free AI tools by all the companies. First, is education important or relevant? Second, should we spend $50,000 to $200,000 and send our kids abroad, to acquire skills which can be acquired online? Any one of you can pick it.
Yeah, I'm happy to start. And Monica, you forgot about the astrophysics PhD.
Oh, yeah. I have to forget that in a little while.
So what
Yeah.
I pick is, if you really need to be, you need to do a research on your boss career, right? Guys, for you. Yes. Wow.
That's the inside there. Yeah, we'll talk about it. But no, absolutely. Look, it's a good point. I think if I look at my experience when I went overseas to study, we were very kind of, boxed in our approach. You were either a commerce student or you were an arts student or you were a science student. That determined what you would potentially do. And I think study in Australia, and we talk about this a lot now. In fact, when we were the Festival of Australia that we just did, we spoke to a lot of alumni who had kind of gone to study around my time. And one of the things we speak about is how, your horizon just opens up when you can do astrophysics main subject and do, psychology as an elective.
Yeah.
True.
So I think that sort of stuff really kind of helped. And to your question, is it important? Back in the day, there used to be this kind of concept about an MBA. Yeah.
Yeah.
The MBA was always a piece of paper that was needed if you want to be successful in
Right.
business, but everyone always said, you do an MBA for the network that you build. Yeah.
Totally agree.
I think that's relevant for all education at the moment. Yes, you can study online, and there's some fantastic opportunities online. And for your viewers that are listening, Australia is a leader in online. So look at the Australian universities. But the things that you learn and the holistic experience of actually, the studying with other students, interacting, I think is what shapes education. So, will we evolve in terms of how we do degrees? Certainly. But, will that element of, going to university ever stop? Probably not.
I agree. In fact, with NEP coming in, and I have to say that today's kids are not only privileged, they have opportunity to, like, they're in the best era. You have the traditional education, you have, information at your, not even at your fingers, or not even fingers. I was reading a few things that even if you think, there are tools. If you think the AI is capturing that thoughts and helping people execute.
Yeah.
My thesis is what probably Gillettes and GMs took 150 years to build companies. In our era, it's 30 years. Now, I believe 3 to 5 years, you can build unicorns and you can build it for 5 to 10 people. You don't need, big teams, In that era, again, what path a student should take and how their parents should guide them, and that's how Australia the ecosystem is facilitating, students, parents, and the overall ecosystem. Is that relevant, or I asked lots of multiple questions? Because I have so many questions floating in my mind.
So the base of the question is, how do families help their kids to choose something that's going to be meaningful?
If I'm
to
17,
them?
or let's say I'm 16, I
Yeah.
want to choose
Yeah.
whether to study in India,
Yeah.
or firstly whether to pursue undergrad or not to.
Yeah.
There are
Yeah.
flyers, and
Yeah.
there's one thesis I have wherein start as early as possible and
Yeah.
do whatever you like and see
Yeah.
flow.
Yeah.
And the other is take your time,
Yeah.
ensure that you do what you love and you will do well. And then there is a traditional way. I guess you both are a outcome or a factor or byproduct of great education. So what do you suggest
Yeah.
to today's generation who is at the cusp of whether
Yeah.
to pursue education and whether not to pursue education and learn on the go?
Yeah, so it goes back to your previous question, and I loved that question about, is it changing? Is education still important? And my answer to that is absolutely unequivocal yes.
Yeah.
Education is absolutely critical to the development of individuals, their families, society, and the world. There is no doubt that if you undervalue education, if you deprive people of education, society goes backwards. So that's, for me, absolute. The question I think underlying this, though, is does that have to be formal education in the kinds of environments we've got used to, like universities? And then there's another set of questions that's about, well, what does a university offer? And it's not just the education, is it?
Yeah.
It's the experience of being with other people. It's the experience of being challenged to think differently, It's the opportunity to have a structure around the way that you learn and the education that's offered. It's the ability to be able to interact with people who are doing research that's building the next generation of knowledge. And for overseas education, it's about doing that in a different environment where you're developing global insight, you're working as you study, and perhaps you're staying on to develop the first part of your career, or you're developing a career in the country that you're studying in. So you're choosing a lot when you choose a formal education in a university, and it's not just about that education. And you're right. I think that there's some incredible stuff that's available without any structured environment that I can go to, and I can listen to a Nobel Prize winning lecturer talk to me on a topic that's fascinating and is educative. Like, it helps me to understand and to build knowledge. But what universities can do and do, both online and in person, is put a structure around that and kind of scaffold you so that you build the knowledge in a meaningful way that can then help you to deliver something different and something that contributes in a structured way to your career. They also give you a credential, which still has value, right?
No, I agree.
So there is incredible value in that unstructured, informal, practice-based learning. And some institutions are good at kind of packaging that up as well to help you to be able to credentialise that. But yeah, and your experience is one that I think we see everywhere, don't we? That, you know, and people go into workplaces, and whether they're building something themselves or whether they're learning from the people around them, that's shaping and forming their future. So yeah, incredibly important. But the answer is education is critical. Whether you get that within a degree or whether you get that through your work, you're educating yourself. And yeah, the more we can do to support people to do that globally, the better world we'll live in.
So I was reading this article from World Economic Forum of last week, wherein, you know, the now it's not about official 3 years or 4 years education. If you're not learning and evolving, you will lag behind. You know, if you say, okay, I am a doctorate in this subject, but I don't want to read about AI, and I don't understand personal finance, and I don't want to take care of my health. You know, you might be the most educated person, but you will lag behind. You know, the way things are changing.
You can't stop.
One night DeepSeek comes and say, hello, you know, Nvidia 35%, you know, of their wealth go down the drain. So totally agree that the initial structure education is very important. It's like building blocks. You know, if you don't learn the basics about, you know, education or learnings, probably, you know, it will be very tough to build up. So,
can I interrupt you?
Please.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
because what you're describing is something absolutely fundamental, I think. It's about, those are the times and the places where you learn how to learn.
So nicely put.
A skill, right? To learn how
you
to
learn
learn.
how to learn.
Yeah.
You're always on a plane. You're always traveling. You don't have any, you know, you run this successful business. Why did you start the podcast? What was the...
Okay, you know, the real version.
Yeah.
You know, I guess I started liking media and cameras and limelight. I'm a Leo, you know, but you know, more intellectual, you know, or I would say reality. You know, I believe, I firmly believe every one of us, irrespective, we need to build our personal distribution, personal brand. You know, and it's very important when you build your personal brand, and you do think where you know few things. You know, so for me, they are vested interest. I'm getting to, you know, rub shoulders like you and learn. It's like I'm getting a masterclass from someone who's been shaping Australia ecosystem, right? And, you know, there are lots of myth around do's and don't. You know, there are lots of people. Every industry have some, you know, bad actors. You know, and then they convey in a way which is absolutely distorted. Due to few bad actors, the overall ecosystem take a hit. You know, so when we have wisdom and when we have so much of information, accessible information, why should we don't let this information go out? You know, today's generation is they don't want Amitabh Bachchan or Shah Rukh Khan to promote any university. They want to talk to university. They want to talk to alumni. They want to talk to people who are shaping those policies, right? And by doing this, you know, I believe we are doing what the overall ecosystem been meant for, right? The access to right information up from the horse's mouth, right? And this is one aspect. You know, the theme of podcast, if you see, is live, learn, achieve. There are lots of media narratives, you know, which might not be true. like you are positioning yourself, you're very clear that it's a premium destination, but at time it goes in an industry that Australia are not open to get Indian students. Few states got banned. They don't tell why. They don't tell the reasons. So it's very important to go deep inside and hear from the people who are shaping the policies and who are at the hem of decision making. Right? Gone are days when some celebrity will come or some media channel will tell you what to do, what not to do. The earlier you do, the better it is. But you need to be authentic. Because camera is very, very brutal. It within 2 minutes you get to know whether that person is real or they are creating a narrative. So this is exactly the reason. Apart from I starting liking camera.
So you have touched on a couple of points, which I think I just want to clarify.
Please.
As well, just to make it very clear to the audience. Australia remains a warm, welcoming, open destination. Yes, we have policy changes that happen from time to time, but there are 3 things that underpin all that we do. The first is integrity. As Monica mentioned, we are disproportionately represented in rankings for a country with about 43 universities in earnest. Looking at 4,000 circa in the US and 400 circa in the UK, we are very well represented in those rankings.
Very nicely done.
So it is about maintaining the integrity of the system that we have. It's about quality. Now, we are both products of an Australian education. Me, in particular, from an international education perspective, we want to maintain that quality. We want to make sure that a student that is studying in or with Australia has that quality experience. And the third, I think we discussed this earlier, Saurabh, it's around sustainability. Of course, we want to grow. Of course, we have an ambition to kind of be the largest destination of international students, for example, but we need to do that sustainably.
No, I agree. In fact, totally. So I don't know if you're aware, and I guess I have spoken this earlier. So initially we started with Australia. People feel that we started with UK is the strongest market, because I studied from NTU, UK got more organized PBSA or a housing segment than Australia. But I started with Australia, when I started my company again, and my question to you, it's been 9 years. The kind of investment, resources, efforts we've been putting for Australia as a destination versus probably Europe or UK or US, the kind of ROI I get from UK or other markets, probably at least as a company, we are not able to drive that kind of ROI. We have built great relationship. I guess now I can be qualified to represent any university or any government in Australia, because got access of so many of you. But somehow the market didn't explode. And it's been 10 years. It's been 9 years. Right? I have some regions, but I would like to hear from you and then probably validate or challenge those points.
So it's an interesting question. So just to kind of make sure I got this correct. So the business side of, your business exploded in the UK and you kind of really saw...
If I compare UK, my journey with UK, Australia, US, US has been now 4 years, 5 years, we've been expanding, and now we have seen the delta, we have seen the uptick. UK, we always been stable, and they also gone through their postgraduate schemes or whatnot. Australia always been stable, but have not got us exponential growth, which we have seen even in new markets like Dubai, Singapore, or Europe.
It's a big question, and I don't think I have the answer for you right now. But the one thing which could be a factor is Australia, as a destination, when it comes to application, when it comes to housing, when it comes to everything, it's transparent. Visas, everything is transparent. We have the Study Australia website. It's a free resource for students. It's the end-to-end journey: how to apply, when to apply, what documents do you need, right through to post-study work and everything in between. Your rights while you're working, because you have the option to work when you're studying. So your work rights and all of that is clearly available. We've got our Department of Home Affairs that issue the visas. You can go on the website. You actually never need to speak to anyone because you can do it all by yourself. So could that be a factor that is contributing to what you're saying, that because of the information being freely available, maybe a third party, and you do a fantastic job, but maybe less reliance in Australia.
But I wonder if it might be partly our managed growth policy as well. And you were talking about it earlier, how Australia wants to manage our status as a
Yeah.
world-leading education destination, a quality destination, and we're doing that through managed growth.
Yeah.
So where some of your other markets, you might be seeing a real fast growth in international students. For us, it's we're doing that carefully over time, so you might not see that kind of trajectory. And I wonder if it's to do also with housing habits of international students. So often international students in Australia will stay on campus in university accommodation, but they'll often also stay with friends and family. And from India in particular, we see that quite often. We've got a fabulous, really strong diaspora. I love to talk about Indian diaspora in Australia because it's a really important group for us. But there's about 1 million people of Indian heritage in Australia. It doesn't sound like a big number, right? Because here in the land of big numbers.
Billions. Millions are we not be excited with billions.
Million, but
trillions.
But in Australia, million's a big number. There's only maybe 27 million of us. So that group is a very important group. It's also a special group, actually. So Indian diaspora in Australia, we know from the research, are younger, better educated, and earn higher salaries than the average Australian. Did you know that? Quite interesting, isn't it?
I might think of moving there.
Yeah. But and so that group of people is providing this really strong human bridge between Australia and India. And we know that lots of students from this area go stay with friends and family, at least initially while they get set up. And so that might be another reason from Australia. I don't know whether that's similar in other markets.
Yeah. So, I got corrected when I was talking to Abhizar or one of the, one thing I really like about Australia ecosystem, Australia as an ecosystem takes time to embrace you. But once they embrace, then you are part of the family.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's a very close-knitted, curated network.
Yeah, it's like you say Abhizar and we both go, oh,
yeah. So he corrected me, like, sort of, probably your expectation is wrong. And you just mentioned 4,443 universities. 20 million, 3 million, 1.5 million students. And then, yes, but I still have I would say complaint or a suggestion or or whatever, and again, this is coming from a solution mindset, right?
Yeah.
I guess Australia have, and that we have seen the journey of this housing in US also, in UK also, and we can see that they are conscious in Australia, wherein the foreign investment into housing still can be discussed and talked about. If today I want to invest, let's say 100 million, and I have UK, US, even Dubai and Australia, I will put my money to a country where I have a probably less cap on my rentals. The vacancy rates, and probably building my getting licenses. Not that Australia is a great place to work, but probably like more open, supportive business practices. And another is returns. If I put that money in Dubai versus I put that in Australia, and this is also a broader reason I got in one of the panel I was in US, from a lady from White Research or one Ray Research, right? So this is one of the reasons that the investment in Australia, and this is also true with Ireland also. The island market have capped 2% renter yield. In Australia, in Ireland, then I will not put my money in Ireland, but probably put in Dubai, where I get around 8 to 9% of renter yield, 50% appreciation. So that is one. Second, housing being ignored, not intentionally, but somehow. And it's a fact also, for any university, academics are their core. Housing is a byproduct. And it has become so expensive to construct, to manage, and that's not good. And that's where there are few universities who are doing, a few companies in Australia like Scape, doing great. But they are also struggling they only have 25,000 beds versus Unite in UK, where they got 70,000 beds, versus ACC in Australia, in US, where they got 150,000 beds. So this is one aspect. In fact, my interest in Australia, it grew even more stronger when I did a research report, which you only unveiled, and that is where we got so entrenched that I'm like, why? So there is a education aspect from both sides. There are only 43 universities. but there are only 54,000 beds on that universities. There are only 100,000 beds on an organized market, and that's how we got into unorganized market. That's how now we're working with BTR, homestays, study, your shared apartments.
Yeah.
Look, I think you've kind of answered the question yourself as well, because PBSA is one thing, and there's a lot of investment in PBSA happening. So purpose-built student accommodation, Scape, Urban Nest, Unilodge. In fact, the last trip to Australia in February, went to Adelaide, and Flinders University's got this fantastic new kind of PBSA option right in the middle of the city. Superb. Yes, it is high quality, and it comes with a price tag as well.
Right, absolutely.
But as you've said, it's the options that are available, whether that is, university, I guess, halls themselves, residences. Even domestically, students have always, the high proportion that actually,
move from one city to another.
And a group of them would stay in a apartment or a shared house. I think that's very, very common. Homestays, so many different options. I think what you're doing is a good strategy, diversifying what the types of accommodation options that you're offering. Because yes, I don't think the 43 universities, 54,000 as you said, and beds. I'm not sure whether that actually has much implication generally. I'm sure we'll see more and more investment.
Right.
But again, like anything else, you've got accommodation that could be, the premium, right through to, what you want at that particular stage of your life.
No, totally agree. In fact, when people come and say that, I hate this word housing crisis. It's a lack of awareness. No kid is staying on the road. And already study hub, or Doha, or all the education partners, they've been doing great job, for guiding students around, right? So we talked about Australia the destination. We talked about your journeys, right? We talked about why education, definitely education needed. I would like to understand, you talk about the skills part, right? Study with Australia, study in Australia. The third was skills. You want to go deep into skills?
Absolutely. You want to go have a bachelor's first?
Yeah. There is no doubt that India in particular is very, very switched on to the skills need in order to deliver on the 2047 ambitions.
Right.
So not only is India focused on developing the jobs that this huge demographic dividend that's going to be revealed in 2047 is dependent on jobs. It's also dependent on skilled people. So Australia, I mentioned earlier, fabulous education system, right through from pre-primary right through to higher education. But within that, we have a really strong vocational education and training offer. And what we've been looking at, and the Australian government's been working in a couple of programs with the Indian government to identify how we can get the best out of what Australia has to offer for India's growth, and how do Australia and India work together in order to deliver those jobs, people who are skilled for the jobs of the future. And so we've been working now since 2020, even before that, on quite a concerted program, and the Australian government's funded opportunities to see how our vocational education training system can work with India's system to support growth. And we're beginning to see some areas in which our skills structures and content are able to support growth here. But what we're seeing far more happening far more quickly and in an organic way is actually that skills that are provided outside of the qualification frameworks, this informal learning that you were talking about before, is getting picked up. Yeah. And so we're seeing Australian providers come in with very specific areas of knowledge and capability, working with an Indian, either an Indian platform or Indian provider, and being able to, or with government, actually, state government in particular, to be able to deliver some Australian content or very specific areas of capability to large cohorts of Indian students through these kind of, institutional partnerships. And we're beginning to see that grow. Yeah. It's something that we are very focused on, and unlike where we've been with transnational education, with the establishment of the universities, it's been a much slower curve for growth. While we've been kind of trying to figure out I'll tell a quick story. I bought the Future Skills Initiative. We have a Future Skills Initiative, and we did a delegation came and visited from Australia, and we thought, okay, well, they're all the providers, people who are doing great stuff in skills in Australia. Let's see what we can bring to India. And then we go visit somewhere like Infosys, whose training capability is phenomenal.
Brilliant, yeah.
The content that they have, the sophistication of their system, and Australia's standing there going, well, geez, how do we, what do we have to offer here? And so it's been a great journey of recognising everything that India already has and finding the places in which we can engage with that incredible expertise, both to the benefit of Australia, like bringing some of that experience and go into Australia, but also finding those little niches of opportunity where Australia has something special to add. And it's, for some of our clients, that's in soft skills delivery because India is very, very good at delivery of, things like engineering programs for Infosys particularly, AI training, absolutely fabulous. But where they might not have is in kind of employability skills or in communication skills. We're seeing some opportunities there, but Vic's driving this program.
No, absolutely. And I think, as you mentioned, the TAFE system that we have, which is our technical and further education, so vocational courses, is the envy of the world. It's probably one of the finest systems, and I know the Indian government's looking at it very closely to see how we can try and replicate something like that to have more formal qualification in trades in India, for example. Something we'd hope to see kind of happens in the few years to come. But just to add to Monica's point, when you look at state governments, for example, state governments are also becoming very aware of their skills needs, because the big rhetoric that you hear is India wants to be the skilling capital. India's got, demographic dividend, which everyone talks about all the time. And that's there till 2047. So you need to have a skilled workforce. But I think state governments, for example, are starting to go, all right, these are the skills that we need. So whether it is by way of doing skilled surveys in the states, but really well articulated needs that are coming out. That's where Australia is coming in. And we're working across, as Monica said, everything from, formal transnational partnerships and skills through to soft skills. But, some examples to give you, we've got a world-leading quantum training package. One of our companies in Canberra is the Q Control. So they've got this quantum training package called Black Opal. The Tamil Nadu government uses it across the tertiary institutions, for example. We've got mining and equipment, METs as we call it. So that technology, we've got, we are world leaders in that. So Curtin School of Mines, for example, is working across, various, companies and associations and institutions in India to help deliver that. Because this education piece, and the skilling piece for India is so important, and we just want to make sure that Australia is a natural partner for that.
Very interesting, very, very interesting. In fact, at University Wing, so we are always very clear that we are into post-admission. We don't need to be into admission. There are lots of players who do it. But one vision which I am building up and probably need your support or probably guidance or even challenging, right? That, the theme we are building is aspiration to employability. Because everyone is helping in their piece. Okay, we'll help you with your career counseling. We help you with your admission part. We help you with your accommodation. We help you with your forex for payments. But from a parents and student point of view, they have an aspiration to grow, and for that you need education. But education without employability, there can be a huge loan, right? So one theme which we build up, and it just happened over a period of time, that we build SABI, study abroad for Buddy for International Education, which is like a AI chatbot, which just started with my side hustle, because I got very intrigued about AI, and I ended up enrolled myself with ISB for AI leadership like 2 years back, and then I'm like, oh, AI gonna take the jobs, AI gonna change my company, everything. We need to adopt AI. Started with that, but we realized there is lots of information, and everyone is either selling those information with their vested interest, or with distorted facts, right? And that's how we train probably universities and study hub and lots of authentic website and resources, and create a live chat bot for a student to chat directly with that chatbot called Sebi in 50 regional languages.
Fantastic.
We got some tractions, but then Meta AI came in. I'm like, we can't compete with Meta. We can't compete with these LLMs. But what I realized that those are not specialized tools, and it was hallucinating. It was giving some information which probably we are not comfortable, and then we retrained it, and then from there we started Unidirect Connect to connect student with alumni, to connect student
That's a great idea.
with universities, to education partner, and so that's a genuine build build up. But where I'm coming from, we all talk about study abroad. Everyone should grow. All they are so much of big organization they study abroad, but they're still knowingly or unknowingly they are pushing a student to a particular university or a country because that's their business. In fact, I got into this industry. I was a banker, so I was into stock market. I was a trader. So I used to go and collect 50 lakhs, 100,000, and then give it to my investor, and they used to trade. And I realized there's something wrong in it. And if I see from organization point of view, if they don't trade, if they don't churn, they will not earn commissions. If they don't earn commission, they will not able to run organization. And it's also very, very important. Example of mutual fund sahi hai. If people get the habit of investing early and get the right information as an association, so there will be less misinformation. There will be less tweaking of policies or information shared by a particular education partner or by a particular university or even players like us, right? Your view on this, and I'm only asking from a very, very curious mind. Is it something which is in the right direction? Because this is like a vision for me now. I've spent 15 years in this industry. Now I want to spend another 30 years and want to build an ecosystem which is not just about housing, because we are doing that and we are doing okay. But the pie should increase. The right information should be given so that the right outcome to that student should be given. Because if there's there's a student success, he or she can promote 100,000.
When it comes to students at the moment, one of the things that we always say to especially South Asian students, they're well aware of how much in demand they are. Yeah, absolutely. There's choice, and I'm going to steal Monica's line because it's going to come up. It's an abundant market, and that's how we've always positioned it. So, and students are well aware of how important they are. If they aren't, they should be, because everybody wants students from South Asia. Yeah. Now, to your point in terms of how things are changing, 5 years ago we said we're now training students for jobs that don't exist. Now we're probably saying, will that job ever exist again, because it might be taken over by AI? Same thing, we've got the Study Australia website. Our search is constantly evolving. When we started, it was I want to study a bachelor's in engineering here. It's changing. So you've got keywords and all that happening. But if you're working on a product, something could be like, I want to be Saurabh Arora. So how do I do that? So and that's where you start with, this is where I want to be. Founder, CEO of University Living. How did you actually get there? And then the AI then calculates the optimum path that you need to take.
And probably it will make that person in 5 years versus 20 years we will taken.
Exactly.
Yeah, please continue.
So I think that is the future. Heading, this very important bilateral trade relationship between two great nations. How do you get here? So I think,
But that's the part
Very
of the
interesting.
question that I picked up that I was really interested in when you were asking it. So I was about the employability outcome, about the outcome of the study. So when a student and their family is making a choice about a university, they're thinking about the course, the destination, how welcoming it is, what kind of experience. But they're also absolutely focused on what is the return on investment.
Yeah, absolutely.
What does this mean for the career I'm going to have? In the same way that I was standing in a lab in Canberra, I don't know, 40 years ago, realizing that this wasn't for me. If we're using AI to do that kind of consulting, or if we're using, people and networks of friends, in the end, everything comes down to, once I finish this program, what will my life look like? How will I be placed? How will I be prepared to be successful in a job that I'm going to love? And that should be the question that families are asking all the time.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and that employability aspect is something that I think in Australia we're getting much better at recognising that it's not good enough just to come and say we've got a world-leading course. We've got the best researchers in the world who will be teaching you. We've got this incredible, campus experience and accommodation options. And that is much more where I think we ought to be thinking as students and families about.
Absolutely.
And I'm just going to
Yeah,
plug
please.
one more thing.
Please.
So one of the things we've been doing, Australian institutions are well known for work integrated learning. That's working while you learn is an integral part of Australian kind of, I guess, academia, so to speak. But we actually start this journey with, and especially for Indian students and South Asian students, engaging with the work aspect much earlier in their journey.
Totally.
Yeah.
We've got what's called the Study Australia Industry Experience Program. You don't need to be an Australian student at the moment, but you are eligible to do that. So we've got the Industry Experience Program, which is going to, at a very early stage, you start working in groups to work on real life problems, and you actually get exposed to potential employers. Employers get, exposed
Access to great students,
access, exactly. Right after this, the reason why we're rushing is we've got the Study Australia Entrepreneurship Challenge. This is working with year 11, year 12 school kids, where we start with a list of about 1,000 schools, dwindle down to there's 5 or 6 finalists today in Delhi from all over India. And I think we'll be blown away with the solutions that they'll come up with to real life problems.
No, absolutely. In fact, I got to know about this from Neha, and I'm like, I have a very small private syndication. Same. I talk about 2 things about employability. So my question is to everyone same. That guys, you talk about employability, and there are 18,000 education partners in India, or agents, what do you call it? There are so many unicorns and multi-million companies. We have a very small portion of that. If at University Living we can hire 3 people on a postgrad visa in UK, if each of us can hire 1, 2 or 3, there is a demand, there is a supply. How can we match it? And you guys are doing with all the initiatives so beautifully. That is one. Talking about, you mentioned about work integrated program, and this is where I believe how you optimize your resources. How you ensure that in the morning you are doing TNEs with universities and involving local governments and local universities. In the second half, you have invited universities and students. In the evening, you are invited trade show. This is the playbook, and we can edit this because I know it's a trade secret, or this is something which I have talked to a couple of ambassadors. I'm like, no brainer, but why we don't do this?
But it's a fabulous concept.
It is.
And
it's brilliant.
Yeah, and in the execution, it's absolutely brilliant. But in the concept of it, it's fabulous, right? So, with AUSTRADE, our 5 areas that we really focus on, we're quite focused in how we engage. First is education. Second is agribusiness, which includes food and beverage. Third is the green economy. That's everything from green infrastructure through to critical minerals. We do some stuff in critical enabling technology, and then we do some stuff in defence and advanced manufacturing. But these 2, education and agribusiness, are massive for us. And we recognise when we're talking to people about education, when we're talking to people about agri, it's the same people we're talking to, right? They are the people who are looking to send their children abroad or study a foreign degree in Australia or study a foreign degree here in India, are the same families that are going out and saying, when I travelled to Australia last year, I had this fabulous lamb. It was the best lamb in the world. How do I get it? And so what
you got the hook. So I'm again watering. It was so good.
So from a concept point of view, it's okay. Well, we've got these 2 cohorts that we want to tell the same story to about premium Australian experience and produce, clean, green, a natural partner for India. Bringing those things together. What I really love about it and the way that it's executed under Vic's leadership is we're talking to young people and their families about what a great experience it is to study in Australia and have an Australian lifestyle. And then we're treating them with an Australian hospitality.
Yeah.
While they're meeting with their colleagues from universities, we're serving them plates of fantastic Australian food. We're doing cooking demonstrations with master chefs that show them the way, that Australia is a hospitable place. We love and we're very proud of the quality that we provide. And so in that environment, we get to do it all at once. And then in the evenings, we have like school leaders as well as government officials, as well as people working in hospitality, all come together in the evening and experience an Australian...
Billion executed.
Yeah.
Brilliantly conceptualized
done.
and even better executed.
Yeah.
And I think, Monica, you need to add the fact that lamb chops plus falafels from Australian chickpeas.
Yes.
Yeah. So
You are rubbing a salt on me because I miss Dhaka and Colombo. But please continue.
But thank you for raising that. It's always good when you've got your boss sitting next to you and you talk about these things, because it's also about achieving economies of scale.
Yes.
Because did you know we don't have to? We've done potentially 3 or 4 events using the same venue and repurposing that. So it's also, we are quite conscious. We are a government agency. Budgets are always tight up, and we need to make the most of the resources that we have. So something like this also gives us that economies of scale, where we've just covered 2 of our flagship sectors and events that we would normally do, but have done them all in the one place on the same day.
No, and it's win-win for everyone, for students, for partners like us. One day you go, you meet so many people and relevant people. And it was very curated, cherry-picked, hand-picked, I would say. And you culminate that day with a great lamb chop, with a falafel and an Australian wine. What else you need, at the end of the day, and then you talk about accommodation, and that's what we know for.
Yeah.
What is your view on accommodation? How you see accommodation?
Look, from my experience as an international student, housing is probably one of the most important decisions you make. And again, it's down to choice as well. Whether you choose to stay in a purpose-built accommodation that's got catering provided, whether you'd want to live in a university dorm with a shared bathroom, but have that experience of living in a community, or whether you're sharing with friends, or you're living with a family member or homestay. Options are unlimited, but it's an important decision. I think what you do is an important kind of part of the whole education journey for a student anywhere they go, whether it's Australia or anywhere else in the world, or even in India. That was kind of, I guess, the main thing for us, how we make sure that, obviously the kind of work that you're doing, making sure that students, potential students and parents are aware. So hence you're there at the Festival of Australia, Study Australia website, again, information clearly available, working through with various providers, in Australia to make sure that students have a very clear choice and know what's available for them before they actually make the decision.
I think there's an expectation in some areas that a student will come and they'll come into the destination, that they'll study on campus in student accommodation, and that expectation is one that I don't think is broadly held in Australia. In Australia, many of the domestic students will study in the city that is their home. So I know in other countries that children almost exclusively or young people will travel outside of their home in order to study. But Australia is a little bit different. And that means that the on-campus accommodation has been, as you mentioned, quite limited, right? But it also means that it's very internationalised. And so students have a great international engagement experience on campus. But then there's plenty of options off campus as well. Both within student accommodation and within private accommodation. Well, you know that. I don't need to tell you, obviously. But all of those options are open, and all of them have value and are recognised as real opportunities to give students different experiences. And we know students who will move across those. So they might come to a homestay experience. They might then, within a year or so, move into a group house, or they might go into their own apartment. And that's great too. During your experience as a student, you should be having as many experiences as you can, particularly as your confidence and comfort grows and you mature in the study destination.
No, absolutely. In fact, I'm a product of that. So I'm from Meerut. That city. It's 2 hours from here. And I believe, a few things we are doing okay is, we say that we are chosen one. So when I moved from Meerut to Delhi for my undergrad, I stayed in hostels,
Oh,
You know,
nice,
then I
yeah.
moved to Answers Plaza. Then I moved to GKS Block. Then I completed my master's undergrad and moved to Gurgaon.
Yeah.
You know, then I came back, stayed in Malviya Nagar, then in Gautam Nagar, then in Lajpat Nagar,
Right, yeah,
and then back to
okay.
Noida. You know, and this is the same journey with my co-founder.
Yeah, right.
Even my CFO and my CTO, their kids have, in fact, both are Australian product. They have their one of the my CFO daughter was with UNSW.
Excellent.
You know, and my CTO son Karan is from University of Sydney.
Yeah,
So I believe, you know, though UK is the biggest market for us, as you know, but Australia is very close to my heart. You know, and somehow probably I'm meeting so much with you guys that I'm probably if I get a chance and I'll Faith choose to go, probably my vote is for her to go to Australia. You know, and you know the point you made that it's very, very important. You know, it's not only about which class you study, what course you study.
Yeah,
It's about
yeah.
people
The
you
whole
stay with.
experience.
There are so many of Saurabh back when they are 20, they go there without booking their accommodation.
Yeah,
You know, they wait till the visa to come.
yeah.
Your suggestion or your advice to them, very, very important. And that is another vested interest. You know, I've been shouting on the roof that it's book early, look beyond university halls and start early. Don't book through, it's fine.
Agree.
But at least housing, please don't ignore. You know, and when they hear from you, then probably it become more, you know, serious. So
I think for everything, you have to start early. You have to give yourself time. The visa is one part of the journey. But even with the visa application, for example, you know, you can start getting your information into the online system quite early so that when you have all your transcripts and everything that you need, then you just press send. Same with, you know, accommodations, same with everything else, you know, that you need. And, you know, you're providing so many of those services to students at the moment, you know. Get your tickets early, for example, you know, you have a better chance of getting a cheaper refundable ticket 6 months in advance.
more baggage.
Instead of trying to book something last minute and then paying double for a non-refundable ticket, for example. So, yeah, I think you've
But
said
think
it
from a
correctly.
student point of view. Yeah, please.
Yeah.
Sorry, yeah, but
Yeah,
and I
please.
think Australian universities are pretty switched on to making sure
Starting
that you're
early.
supported when you come.
Yeah.
But still, like, and you'll see, you know, at the beginning of semester, so kind of late January and February, any airport you fly into, you'll see the universities all set up with booths and university living booths, and there's people there to welcome you. But it's a huge, you know, it's a huge thing to arrive as a foreign student in a foreign land
For the first time.
for the
Alone.
first time alone.
With 4 baggages.
And possibly, waiting for your bags. And possibly you've never traveled in that way before.
Yeah.
You're all on your own. You know, you need to have somewhere where you feel confident and comfortable that you've got a place to go to, you know where you're going to stay, you've got your first few weeks mapped out, and that just helps you to settle in. I mentioned that I came to India right at the end of COVID, before the first lockdown, at the beginning of the time when the borders had just arrived, and I arrived in late November, and I went back to Australia in December for Christmas, and I arrived in Sydney, and all the international students were just coming back. Like, I'm sure it was me and Lawrence on the plane, and everybody else was an international student. The plane was just full coming back from Mumbai. And I met these 2 guys, and that I was chatting to, you know, and they were coming to study as students, and they said, "Oh, I've always, you know," and I said, "Have you been to Australia before?" And he said, "Yes, many times in my dreams, but this is my first time travelling internationally." So there were 2, so they were friends from the same city, but they arrived and they had nothing planned, and they were coming. It was Christmas Eve, and I was saying, So where are you going to stay? Oh, we hear that we can find someone down home. Like, yeah, you probably can, but it's going to be tough. And you've just arrived with all of your, all of your gear. And then they were saying, so we hear we hear that we should go to the beach for Christmas Day. And I'm like, yeah, lots of people do, but that's maybe not what.
With the 4 suitcases, a bit harder.
It would have been good if you've got somewhere to keep your bags while you go to the beach for the day, right? So. You want that experience of arriving in a new place,
Absolutely.
just to be one where that builds your confidence, not one where you feel out of depth. You know, if you go and you've got somewhere to arrive, then you have a base, and you can tell people when you meet them, "Oh, I'm staying at so and so," and then you can plan your travel out from that place. Yeah, it would be pretty. It's such a big shift. You know, it's such a big thing to do. anything you can do to get yourself set up before.
I
But I would say I do want to make the point that Australian universities are very good at this.
Yeah.
They are very good at supporting students when they arrive.
Agree. Totally
Exactly.
agree.
Yeah.
In fact, that's why, and I hope that now, I mean, I know they've been hearing from me and my team, and we have changed we have changed a lot. Earlier students used to come in Feb to book their accommodation. Now they're coming as early as November, October.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And when they hear from you, they will, I mean, there's no vested interest. I always say don't book through us, but at least start early. Don't be that Saurabh who landed in Nottingham in January, on a cold English evening.
Yeah.
And I'm like, where should I stay? I'm on your campus. They're like, what do you mean? I'm like, isn't you need to help me, supposed to help me when I'm on your campus?
Yeah.
At least in India, this is what we believe.
Yeah.
When if I'm in home, you need to take care of me. Right? They're like, mate, we take care of 2 nights. And on 2 nights, there were no duvet. There were no
right.
pillow.
Oh, no.
I was like 21, 22.
Yeah.
1,000 times I've thought about what I'm doing here. I'll go back.
Yeah.
Imagine if I
It's too
have
hard.
fallen for it, and lots of students fallen for that. That probably this is not for us. Induction is not great.
Yeah.
I'm feeling homesick. I'm feeling lonely
Yeah.
after taking loans and so much of
Yeah.
hustles, right? So that is one. Second, I guess there's still opportunity to create student unions. Or create that something which we have created in Australia, in UK, like NISAO, something like that. I don't know if that exists in US,
it does,
in Australia.
yeah.
If not, then probably
Yeah.
we can probably do more initiative together, because in
Yeah.
UK it's thriving well.
Oh,
and
okay. We can make that connection. Yeah.
Yeah, there's the CISA.
CISA, yeah.
So there's a lot of mechanisms and groups here. Absolutely, we can take that forward.
yeah.
Yeah.
Very interesting part, rapid fire.
Okay.
And we have stolen from Coffee with Karan. I mean, we also need more views, and though I'd say that I'm not doing for news and views, but it's so strange. The more views you come, as you also ask, everyone asks. Everyone says I don't believe in views, but because it's important, right? And it's vicious cycle. The more views you get, the better guests we get. The better guests we get, the better content we create, and it's a loop, right?
Yeah.
So for that purpose, we get into rapid fire without any hampers and all,
Okay.
right? Monica, one sector in South Asia where Australia should invest more.
Yeah, we're invested very, very well. I think education is one. Education for transnational education in particular. That's an incredible opportunity for Australia and India to work closer together. I'm beginning to see some real opportunities in critical and enabling tech, where Australia has some tech that is very nuanced, very specific, but very new and different. And India has this huge demand and a huge market. So I think critical enabling tech. Agri, we are on a steep curve already. Like we're seeing, there was an economic cooperation trade agreement signed a couple of years ago. We're working on a comprehensive trade agreement right now. But you can see in agribusiness, like Australian premium food, wine, commodities is just growing exponentially. So there was 3. You asked for 1. Sorry, and I wasn't.
I mean,
very
more the
fast.
better. More the
So
better.
much.
More the better. You are into investment trade. One cultural movement from India that has stayed with you.
Oh,
And
wow.
there must be many.
So many. I don't think there's anything that I've ever experienced anywhere in the world that would meet an Indian wedding.
And we met there last time.
Yeah. And that's incredible. The whole scale and scope of it, and the excitement, the colour and the movement, I really love. Do you know what still makes my hair stand up on the back of my neck? And I've visited 5 times. It's the Taj Mahal. And it sounds quite naff, right? It's like, oh, you think of India, think of the Taj Mahal. But there's a reason for that. That place is extraordinary and moving. And the being privileged enough to be able to observe that and be that has been.
Did you get a chance to see in the morning that 5 a.m.?
I haven't seen at 5 a.m., but I've seen early morning.
Early morning.
I've been 3 times at sunset. I love sunset there. It's beautiful. Yeah.
Australia, I've seen the same. That there are lots of common with Indian and Australians.
Yeah.
They love their family.
Yeah.
They love their food.
Yeah.
They like to enjoy. Like probably relax. But on the face of it, it feels probably takes time to get
To
through.
warm up.
Hmm.
Oh, that's interesting.
I don't know. I might be wrong. I'm just I'm too raw. Sorry.
Well, do you know what? If we're just talking, and we can always cut stuff out if it's boring.
Yeah.
But before I came here, I have a good friend in Australia, Rupesh Singh. Do you know Rupesh
Yeah.
from ECA?
I'm talking
And
to him.
I mentioned I worked with him ages ago. So anyway, when I said I was coming here, and he said, "Oh, you're never going to make it there. You're way too soft."
I mean, in India, you need to up your guard,
Yeah.
and I guess you got it. No, I
Maybe.
guess
Here
you've been
4
doing.
years
Yeah.
now.
Well, we are also commercial diplomats.
Yeah, that's true.
We're trained
Yeah.
professionals.
Yeah.
Yeah, of course. GM. If not AUSTRADE, what would you be doing today?
I would probably be I would be working in the university in international education. That's what my career was. And I love it. I love working in a university. I love being around students. There's nothing like the vibe on a university campus. Like
It's keep you young and
and there's-
abreast. Yeah.
and there's people from all around the world, both the academics and the students. There's always something going on. It's lively. I love a university campus. I would be back on one of those, I think.
I started a space where Australia and India naturalize.
So just
I started a space
startup space.
where Australia and India are naturalized.
Technology, as Monica said, we can't sell technology to India, but we can collaborate. So it's about India and Australia
Tech trade.
working together to sell to the world. So I think that's a natural
And
space.
more space we agree
Health tech,
Health,
Health,
yep.
health tech, yeah.
Yeah,
health tech, fintech, agri-tech,
absolutely.
edutech, cyber.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Accommodation tech.
Yeah,
Accommodation
absolutely.
tech, there you
PropTech,
go, yeah.
PropTech.
Please do
yeah.
invest.
A new area for us. No.
And if you take out the techs, then obviously our education, allied health, all
Yeah,
those things. I
yeah.
think there's so many
Yeah.
complementarities. Yeah.
The one Indian city or state you think will become a major player in Australia-India collaboration in the next 5 years?
Bangalore,
Bangalore.
Karnataka, just because I
Because you are
live
there?
Yeah.
I'm
But
calling
it's a great
Mumbai.
city.
I'm
Yeah.
calling Mumbai.
Mumbai.
Yeah.
But where you based in Mumbai? Or you based in Bangalore?
Bangalore,
And your
yeah.
family's in, like, your parents are in Delhi?
My parents
So
are
you've
in Delhi.
been shuttling Mumbai, Bangalore and Delhi?
Well, we actually live on a plane. So
Yeah.
Yes,
that's the
I
reality.
forgot you own a plane. I'm so sorry. Which one is this? Is this Boeing or Dreamliner?
But I lived in Mumbai for nearly 3 years and then Delhi for this last year.
Yeah.
And I reckon there's so much going on.
Mumbai or
in
Delhi?
Mumbai.
Mumbai?
Sorry.
No,
Be careful,
It's been 50 plus podcasts I've done. So,
I figured out how to answer that question.
Okay.
Because I get asked
Okay.
that question most days. So try it again. Ask me the question.
Delhi or Mumbai?
I don't know. Where do you come from?
I'm come from Meerut,
Is that close to
Uttar
Delhi?
Pradesh.
Oh,
It's
right.
2 hours from
Yeah,
Delhi.
It's not far from here.
Yeah.
I love Delhi.
Yeah.
Yeah, Delhi's great. I love it.
Okay.
No, actually, the
Okay.
answer is actually that Mumbai and Delhi are so different, and my experience has been different. In Mumbai, live in an apartment and amongst the people. It's very busy. It's a real engagement in India.
Yeah.
Here, I live in the High Commission, and we're in a compound, and it's beautiful. It's more like living in a resort, but it's quite. It's a little bit dislocated from everyday India life. So my two experiences have been very different. They're hard to
Very nice.
compare. But
So you are not in your eco chambers,
yeah.
and in Mumbai you are on the ground. So I give you the
Yeah.
best of both worlds.
Yeah.
My
That's
answer,
yeah.
my answer. If I would be you,
Oh,
my
yeah,
answer would
thank
have
you.
been on weekdays Delhi. Will help with navigating the
yes,
traffic.
Yeah, yeah.
On weekend it has to be Mumbai.
Yeah, that's a great answer.
With
Okay.
chai and vada pav and whatnot.
Yeah.
But-
Great answer.
The reality is, if you look at the future, Coimbatore, for example, it's the tier 2, tier 3 cities
Yeah.
that are the sleeping giants at the
Yes,
moment in India.
absolutely.
It's the Bhubaneswar, it is Nagpur, it is Jaipur. So I think that's the most powerful thing about India.
Yeah.
We're talking today about 3 or
It's all
4
on
big
the move,
cities,
yeah.
but
So there are 30 such cities which can be
absolutely.
next Delhi and Mumbai. And that's
Yeah.
where the growth is coming from.
Yeah.
Totally. So last bit, and last but not the least, and today, and we will have a part 2 probably 2-3 years later, and we start from now.
Right.
Your future outlook for next 3 to 5 years for Australia education system, India Australia collaboration, and everything you want to add or minus.
Natural partner. I think that's where what we're seeing. It'll be natural for us to be trading partners, education partners, you know, collaborating on everything from healthcare through to quantum computing. I think from an education perspective, and we're starting to see that already, it's more and more Australian education, accessible in India. And of course, we see Australia to be that continued preferred destination for those students that actually want to go overseas and study.
Monica?
Yeah, I think in the next 3 to 5 years, we'll see. I think the last 4 years, or 4 or 5 years, have been really formative in the Australia-India relationship in a number of dimensions. And I agree, everything from defence, trade, education. Diplomatically, we're very close. Our countries are very close. Our leaders are very close. We're doing a lot together, and I think that's prepared a groundwork for Australia and India to grow together quickly. We just did a presentation this morning, actually, back to Australia and globally for AUSTRADE to talk about what we're doing here in South Asia. And in particular, we talked about the growth of India, now at 4th largest economy, 3rd largest by the end of 2028 now, they're saying. So the recognition that India is growing in ways that's going to have an impact on everybody in the globe. And Australia is a close friend and a trusted partner. And we're really interested in working with India on that growth story. And where we have capability, we'd love to be continuing to, influence those relationships and really have a place to play here in India as it really takes that position as the world's 3rd largest economy, and and even currently as the world's fastest growing large economy. All around the world, everyone's picking up and paying attention. But for Australia, we've been on this journey for a long time. We've been close friends for a long time. And while I think this growth is getting the attention globally now, I think Australia will stay a very close friend and, in many ways, a preferred partner for India. And I can just see that growing over the next few years.
Amazing. Superb. Thank you.
Thank you.